All right, hello, welcome to section 7.4. We're going to continue our study of logarithms. This section goes over properties of logarithms. We're going to be adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing with logs, and these are really weird. They're kind of not intuitive, and it's something that you kind of just got to memorize, which is somewhat unfortunate, but hopefully it'll make some sense as we go through them here. Okay, so there's really three properties. All right, so you're going to want to jot these down, right? And there's some official names in the book or something, but they're sort of like an add property. So if I have a log, let's say base 3 of, I don't know, 8, and I want to add to that a log base 3 of, say, 10, what actually happens here, as weird as it seems, is if they're both log base 3, you can keep the base 3 part, and then you actually multiply the parts that are right here. Right, the value part. So the 8 and the 10. So we can write this as a log base 3 of 80. And it seems really weird that you have an add here and you multiply those two parts, right? But it actually comes from like the exponent rules where like if you're multiplying two things with the same base like this, remember our base is 3 here, and if you're multiplying, you actually add the exponents. So it's sort of like that property, but just done with logs. And because logs like find the exponent, right? It's basically saying like, you can add two exponents here, and when you do that, you do that in like a multiply situation. All right, so that's kind of what's going on the add one. Okay, and then there's a similar one for subtract. Okay, so if I have two logs subtracted, so let's say log base 2 of 20 minus log base 2 of 5. What you're actually going to do is keep the log base 2 again, and then you're just going to divide these two parts, right? So it kind of makes sense if you think about the last one, right? On the last one, it was an add, and we multiplied the two parts. So here, when it's subtract, we're going to divide the two parts. We're going to do 20 over 5, and then that, of course, cleans up. That actually cleans up quite a bit. Log base 2 of 4, which you could leave it that way, would be fine. 20 divided by 5. That's the main thing, is to know that these two parts divide. Technically, this one comes out evenly to 2, because this is find me the exponent for 2, that gives us 4. So sometimes on these questions, if it comes out nice and clean, you'll simplify it one step further. But the main part is to know that these two things divide. Okay, and again, that comes from the exponent rule like this, or when it's division, you subtract the exponents. So that situation is actually subtract. Right, that's where it's coming from. By the way, these will go both directions. So like in the homework, you'll have questions that'll say like write as a single log, and then you'll have to do what we're doing here. And then they'll also go the other way where you're going to expand. So you have to know that like if this one's a little weird one, but this log base 3 of 80 would be equivalent to two log base 3s where the two numbers here multiply up to 80. So you will have to go both directions in the homework. I'm going to go to the next page to get one more, so make sure you got these down. And then the last one is, I'm not even really sure what I would call this. Maybe it's like an exponent property. Okay, and where it comes from is the power of the power. So remember, logs are dealing with exponents. So in power of a power here, you multiply these together to get like x to the 10th. So what that looks like in logs is a situation where you have like a number in front of the log like this, and then we have log base 3 of x. So what happens is the rule is you can take this number and move it up and make it an exponent. So that what I have written here is equivalent to log base 3 of x squared. And where this really comes from, again, is the idea that you multiply the exponents. So this multiply situation can become then an exponent, right? They're equivalent, right? Like it's kind of like multiplying two exponents here is what's being thought of when you're saying log means find me the exponent. So it's sort of like you're multiplying two exponents in a power of a power situation. Please know that it does also work both ways. So you can, if it says expand, right, on an expand question, you'll actually move the exponent down in front. So you'll have to kind of go both directions on these homework problems. So those are the three properties, and now I'm just going to dive in and do some questions with you. All right, so we're going to start with the expand questions, where we want to write it in multiple logs. Okay, so on these ones, we're going to be starting on, let's see, this side and going that way, expanding them out. Okay, so on this one, we have a multiply here. So what that really means then is if it's multiplied here, we can add the two exponents together. So I'm going to take the two parts, the 6 and the x, and I'm going to write it as two logs added together. So a log of 6 plus a log of x. Okay, and the base here is 10. It's a little bit easier if they don't have a base because it's like an invisible base 10. But basically the idea is this is multiplication, so we could write it as two logs added together. And that's expanding, right? Because we started with one log and then went into multiple logs. Later we'll go the other way, right? Where if they're added together, you could put it back, write it as a single log. But this one says expand. Okay, so maybe pause the video and try this one on your own. Right, so this is another multiply situation. It's a base 2 this time. But what we have three parts multiplied together, 4, x, and y. So I'm going to write it as 3 logs then added together. All right, they're all going to be base 2 logs. Keep that the same. And I just take these 3 parts and write it as 3 separate logs. Right, since they're multiplied together in this log, you can write them, expand them out as them added together. And that would be your answer. Okay, another expand one. Again, pause the video. This one has division in it, so you kind of got to think through it a little bit, but give it a shot. All right, so this one is a multiply here. So we know we're going to have like a log base 3 added with a log base x, not base, so log of 3 and log of x. And then the divide part becomes a subtract. So I have a log of 3 plus a log of x, because those are multiplied together, and then subtract a log of y, because this is division. Right? And again, the base is 10, which is kind of nice because you don't have that other little number in there to make it more confusing, but they're just log base 10s and that's it. We've expanded it out. We had 3 parts. 2 are multiplied together and 1 was divided, so it becomes an add and a subtract. Let's skip over that one. Let's see. Yeah, let's try this one, since this one has exponents in it, right? This is our first one that has exponents in it. So I don't know. See what you can do here, and then I'll walk you through the steps. All right, so the first thing is to realize that this is a multiply. So I'm going to write it as 2 log base 4s added together. So log base 4 of y cubed. Okay, and then on an expand question, this is a pretty good first step, but these numbers are now going to move down in front, right? Because that's our rule with exponents is they can move in front and become multiply. So I'm going to have 2 log base 4 of x plus 3 times log base 4 of y. Right, so you just move them down. Okay, and so let's just see. Yeah, here's a simpler one of that where it just says expand, and right, all I'm going to do is move it down. So on an expand question, you can just move that exponent down in front and make it multiply. Okay, so it'll come up in questions like that. Okay, what is coming next is we are going to reverse this process. So that was expand, but now we're going to start here and get back to a single log. So it's going to be right as a single log, right? So it's literally using the same 3 properties, but just reversing them, right? So hopefully you got those properties written down and are ready to go. Okay, so right as a single log, you can pause the video and give it a shot if you want. All right, so because this is an add, I'm going to do a log base 2, and I'm going to multiply those 2 parts together. So 50 and 3, so it's just log base 2 of 150. All right, and that's it. All right, so when it's an add, you multiply the 2 parts that are there. That's a single log, boom, we're done. Technically, you could find this value on your calculator if you wanted, but I think they just want it as a single log, and so we got a single log. All right, a little more advanced one. Pause the video, give it a shot. All right, so anytime the logs are added together, you're going to multiply these parts, and then if it's subtract, you're going to divide. So as a single log, I guess I could do it in steps. I'll multiply the 5 and the x first because they're added together, and then we have log of 20. And so now I'm going to divide, because this is a subtract, I'm going to divide the 5x and the 20. So it's going to be log, and then 5x over 20. And then you would probably clean that up. Since 5/20 reduces to 1/4, I'm going to write it as x over 4 like that. And again, the base is 10, right? It's kind of an invisible base 10 there. But it cleans up. 5/20 simplifies to 1/4. Okay, another one for you to try. This one has numbers in front, so you got to figure out what to do with those first. Pause the video and give it a shot. Okay, so what's going to happen here is these are going to move up, right? So if they're times in front, they become exponents. So we have a log of x to the 10th plus log of 10 squared. Okay, and then log of 10 squared is just 100. So maybe I'll do that next. So it change the 10 squared into 100. And then because these are added, we're going to multiply these two parts, right? So it's going to be a log 100 times 10x, right? And that's what we wanted. We want it as a single log. So boom, we're done. We got it down to a single logarithm. That's equivalent to what we started with. All right, so we'll close on one kind of crazy one. This has log base 6 in it, which is kind of nuts because the little 6 I think throws students off. But if it helps you, honestly, you could just cover those up and just know your answer is going to be a single log base 6 when you're done. So if those freak you out, just cover them up and try it without it there, and then put it back in at the end because it really doesn't affect the question. But at any rate, give it a shot, and then I'll go through the answer. Okay, so I would start on the inside of the parentheses here and just say, okay, those are two log base 6's subtracted. So I'm going to do a log base 6, and I'm going to divide the two parts, the 15 and the 5. Okay, and maybe on this back one, I'm going to move this up, right? Since that is multiply in front, it can become an exponent. So you can do log base 6 of 4 cubed, right? I lost this parenthesis right there. And then now a couple steps here. So log base 6, and then 15 divided by 5 is 3. Probably don't need this other parenthesis now there. I did the 15 divided by 5. And then 4 to the third power would be 64, I believe. Okay, and now I can move this one up because it's exponent. It's a multiply, so I'm going to do log base 6 of 3 squared plus log base 6 of 64. All right, and then just keep going from there because I don't have it as a single log yet. So I'm going to keep going. So log base 6 and then 3 squared is 9. Okay, and now they're both log base 6's added together. So I can multiply these parts, the 9 and the 64. Right, so all that's going to be single log base 6. So I finally got it to a single log, and then just do 64 times 9. So we have a log base 6 of 576, and that's our final answer as a single log. Just a reminder, all of this lesson is about those properties. Okay, so it's basically the three properties we went over at the beginning. Right, so make sure you have these jotted down, like the add, subtract one, and then the one with the number in front becoming an exponent. Right, so just have those handy as a reference when you're doing these problems, because it really all comes down to being able to use those three. And there's two different types of questions, right? As a single log, like we're doing at the end there, and then expand ones, which is what we started with. So that is it. Thank you for watching.